Okay, back to Mishlei after a month, I think, that it's been since we've been here. So I'm really, really happy to get back. Okay, so for not warning, but this is one where every word is weird. So we'll have to do some word like sleuthing in order to like even get started. But then once we get the words, then we'll be fine. Okay. Meira. Oh, you know what? Hold on. I want to actually look at the trope here. Yeah, Meira Makshiv al Sfas Oven. Oops. Hold on. I opened another file. Yeah. Meira Makshiv al Sfas Oven. Sheker Mazin al Lashon Havuos. Does anyone want to try translating? And if not, then that's fine because this is probably the hardest one to translate that we've gotten. If not, then I'll take it away. Any brave souls? Okay, so the Meira is there's a majority, like a mainstream translation, and then there's a minority translation. So I'm gonna go ahead and go with the mainstream just to keep things simple. So in Hebrew, you often see mereim, which is evildoers, like from the word ra, and the mem is, I don't know how you explain it, but it's a prefix that means to cause. So merea is like an evildoer. Okay, so not a Russia. Obviously, there's an affinity between the two, but an evildoer, one who causes evil. Makshiv. So this dictionary here says, oh, hold on, I gotta save this as a different file. Anyone know what Machshavah means while I'm doing this? I mean, I wrote it on the screen. Yeah, Shmuel?
Achieve means listens to.
Yeah, okay, good. Good. So that's how I would translate it. Okay, so listens, and I'm gonna actually say, yeah, I'll say listens to. Listens to. The BDB dictionary says incline or attend, attend of ears, like attending, like with your attention, but with your ears. So listens to sfas aven, okay? So sfas literally means lip, okay? But language, or let's say speech, but literally lips or lip of oven. Okay, now if you okay, I'll just go with the dictionary here. Okay, oven is hard. Oven means either trouble, sorrow, or wickedness. Okay, I think the only example that is common, and it's not even so common, is when Rachel gives birth to Binyamin. She names him Ben Oni, which means the son of my sorrow, because she dies like shortly thereafter. Like she knows she's going to die in childbirth. So sorrow, or let's say an onain, like when someone when a relative dies before you are in avelus, before you've buried them, you're an onain. I think that's related to oven, I think. Okay, so sorrow and then trouble and wickedness are two other meanings here. Okay, so we'll keep that ambiguous. Okay, sheker mazin al lashon havuos. Now sheker literally means falsehood, right? But I think most people learn this to mean a man of falsehood. Okay, like a I'm gonna say a man of falsehood. Okay, just to put it in brackets to show that it's not there. Mazin. Okay, anyone know what mazin means before I show you the definition? We say it in Rosh Hashanah in davening after the Malchios Zichronos and Shofaros. Areshus of Asenu, Yarav Lefanecha. Yeah, Shmuel.
I want to say also listens to
Yes,
Mishoresh
correct.
Ozen.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Okay, good. So it's from the root of ozen, which is from the ear, but for some reason the aleph drops away. Okay, um so a man of falsehood listens. So this is why I didn't want to translate this as listens. I wanted to be more specific. So I'm gonna go like this: listens attentively, and then for this one I'm gonna say listens literally gives ear. Okay. You can just translate as listens, but I just want to try to, preserve the nuances. Uh, al lashon havuos. Okay, and this is yet another word that just is like very hard to translate. So he listens to speech, literally tongue of okay, havuos we have had before, and it is a wild word. Okay, it means either desire, destruction. Oh, I thought there were more than that. Desire destruction. That's what I was looking at before. Last time we had this, or not last time, first time we had this in Monday Night Mishlei was in 2020. and we translated havuos as being, like from haya, possessions, desire, or destructiveness or breaking. Okay, so let's just simplify it here. So a tongue of havuos, which we'll translate here as either desire, destruction, or breaking. Okay, I guess breaking and destruction are the same thing. Okay, I'm not going to do possessions unless we see someone say something. Okay, so that's our translation. Okay, for now, that's our working translation. All right. Now we got for those who are, I don't know who's in the chat, but for those who are new or unfamiliar, so what we do is we translate it on our own, then we look at the minimalist meforshim, the minimalist commentators, then we look at the English translations, and then we start asking questions. Okay, so ציון says mazin is kamo ma'azin, it means like to give ear. Ratzalomar makshiv ba'ozno, he listens with his ear. Havuos is inyan shever, the ra'ah, so havuos means destruction or harm. Okay, fine. So that we already have. Sadigon says Hamerea makshiv ledivre ha'aven. So he translates it as the evildoer listens attentively to the words of Aven. Uma'azin el hashav milashon bal havuos. Okay, so this is where he differentiates and listens to the falsehood from the speech of the destructive person. Okay, so that is a different translation. And then the last minimalist translation we have here is in the Targum, Gavra Bisha, Sayis Lesif Vasa Da'asa Shikra, Braglusa Alishana Da'asa. So I double checked this with ChatGPT because I wasn't sure what was going on with Da'asa with the ayin. So ChatGPT translated, I'm pretty sure this is right, as a bad man listens to the speech or to the lips the lips that bring falsehood, and to the tongue that brings gossip. Okay, and you know what? I'm going to delete the rid. We already have enough on our plate here. Okay. Lastly, we have 3 English translations. I actually did not bring any of my translations to Connecticut, so I had to look online. Art Scroll, this might just be Art Scroll Rashi, but it's an Art Scroll, says the wicked man listens to iniquitous speech. Okay, so they want to say like wickedness. Oh, the false man listens to the destroying tongue. Okay, so they go with speech for lip, and then they say tongue for destruction. The revised JPS says an evildoer listens to mischievous talk, a liar gives ear to malicious words, and Koran says a wicked doer gives heed to false lips, and a liar gives ear to a mischievous tongue. So what I'm going to do is like I usually do. I'm going to copy and paste all of this into the chat so that you can have it at your fingertips, and then we'll start asking our questions. Okay, are all these going to fit? Probably not. So let me just pare this down. And let's see if we put this in the chat. Also, I do not have my second monitor tonight, so I might miss your chat. I'll try checking, but yeah. Okay, so if you're very, very, very distracted by all this, then go ahead and just pay attention to our translation. I'm going to actually put these up here just so we can keep our eye on the ball here. Okay, so what are the questions here? A lot of these are definition questions, but I'll open the floor for questions. What are the questions and problems? Yeah, Shmuel.
What about the iniquitous speech, or what was it? This what we said in our translation.
Yes, destructive.
Speech of an aven.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What about that makes an evildoer want to listen?
Okay, good. So that's going to be one of the main questions, right? Which is, what is it about? And I'm going to go ahead and just use the hold on, I'm going to just put the transliterations in here for those who do not read the Hebrew. Let me just make this a little bit wider. Okay, so I like how you asked the question. What is it about the Safas Aven that causes the evildoer to listen attentively? And then you could probably ask the parallel question, what is it about the Lashon Havuos that makes the the man of Sheker, hold on, let me just put this here also. Sheker. Okay. The man of Sheker, listen, listen, fine. Okay, Isaiah?
So the Svas oven,
Yeah.
why is it? It sounds like I mean, this is in question one, but it's just what's wrong or bad or something about listening to the speech of oven? Like,
Okay.
someone, if there's sorrowful speech, doesn't sound like an evil or bad quality to listen to it.
Right. So you're saying so wickedness, you're saying that would make sense, but if it's sorrow or trouble, then you're saying what's so bad about it, right?
Yeah.
All right. If oven means sorrow or maybe even trouble, what's so bad about listening to it? Okay, it might even be a good thing. Yeah. Okay, Rivki.
Yeah, so I had two questions. One was similar to what Isaiah was just saying, so maybe it's like a piggyback sort of thing. But I guess like my question is, does listening inherently have, we know it doesn't always have a negative like connotation. So similar to what Isaiah was saying, like why is it so negative here? Just because it's listening to negative things, but sometimes that's good because you can make that person like be influenced in a positive way. If you really hear someone and you're like, oh wow, like let me tell you my thoughts on this. You know what I mean? Like I just don't
But so are you asking, so Isaiah was asking what is negative about it? Are you asking how do we know it's negative?
No, not how do we know? Because I think from context you can tell.
Right.
But I'm just the overall like vibe of the pasuk seems like it's bad.
Yeah. So what is the difference between your question and Isaiah's question?
No, I was making sure it's not different.
Oh, fine. Okay.
Yeah. And then the second one I had was just about the why contrast these two characters in this pasuk.
Okay. Why I guess what is I'm gonna say what's the relationship between the two halves such that we're focusing on these two characters, okay? And these are not usual Mishlei characters, right? So usually you talk about the Russia, but the Meira, I don't even recall a time that we've talked about that. The only time we talk about it that I remember is there are times when Shlomo Melech says, "Don't be jealous of Mireim," but that's more like they're the scenario of the pasuk. They're not the subject, you know. And then similarly, the Ish Sheker, we usually talk about lying as an action, or we talk about other Mishlei archetypes who engage in lies, but just the false man, the man of falsehood, like what exactly is that? Which probably means we have to first ask, what are the definitions of you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm always conscious of the fact that not everyone who listens to the shiur or watches it knows how to read Hebrew characters, so I just want to type in the transliterations here. Yeah, okay, I know it's really confusing to see all these brackets and stuff, but live with it. Okay, so what are the definitions of Meira and Sheker? And I'm going to go ahead and again, I'm going to assume that this is Ish Sheker here. Okay. And I'll say like, what is the difference between these guys and I guess like standard Mishleic archetypes, similar standard Mishleic archetypes. Okay. So for example, the Russia or the who's a liar? The Remia is the deceitful person. Yeah. Okay. Avital. Or sorry, Yitzi.
Oh, good. So this is a piggyback off 4 and 5, which is besides for Mira and Sheker, we have 4 parallel terms. So just to nail down like the difference between them, Mira, Sheker, Makshiv, Mezin, Sfasem, Lashon, and Aven and Havos. Like it's so all of them are like almost synonyms. So kind of in order to answer 5, first drilling down on what the differences are. And just defining like what the first half is saying, what the second half is saying, and how they're like relating to each other due to that.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I always run into this problem of not having a color that destroys the eyes, so we're going to do gray. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So so that's like asking the question from the other angle, right? I mean, I see it's piggyback, but like I'm gonna say on the other hand, the two halves almost seem synonymous. So what is the difference, that is being contrasted? Yeah. And by the way, the real minimalist meforshim on the actual like commentary will say that the second half is just a repetition of the first half. So like your intuition is on target there. Okay, next is my dad.
Yeah, so what do we make of that speech in one part of this pasuk is lip and in another part it's tongue?
Okay, good. So what
Does
if
that have
anything?
anything to do with 6 also?
Yeah, right. So what, if anything, is the significance of lip versus tongue? And I'm gonna go ahead and throw in the other actually no, I'll make these two separate questions. Okay, similarly, Makshiv, listen attentively versus give ear. Okay, and I'm gonna say like, are these synonyms, or is there an important nuance? Okay, and again, just to repeat some methodology here, there are basically two schools of thought in Mishlei. The majority school of thought is that Shlomo will often just use synonyms because this is a proverb. It's supposed to be poetic. It's supposed to be catchy, and not every nuance matters. But then you have people like the Malbim or like Rav Hirsch who say that every single nuance is critical to the idea or is important to the idea. So usually what we do, the way we approach it, is we assume that they are synonyms. But then if we have an idea that accounts for the nuance, then we embrace it. Okay, Isaiah.
Okay, yeah. My question is, who's doing the talking in this
Go ahead.
pasuk?
Okay.
Is it the guy? I had some options.
Okay, so who is doing the talking? Who is doing the talking? Okay, what are your options?
People around the Meirah.
Okay, I guess the people around the Meirah.
Or like himself, like self-talk.
Oh, interesting. Okay. All right. Or self-talk. Okay. I think that is that would be the most far-fetched interpretation. Not that it's wrong that you could apply it to that, but I don't know if Tanakh talks about self-talk. I'm not sure. Okay. I thought you were gonna say, or anyone have a third possibility about who is talking? Arguably, this is the most conservative interpretation of who's doing the talking here. You don't have to raise your hand. You can just say.
Well, like each other.
Yeah, each other, right? Okay, so or each other. Yeah. Meaning it's describing the mutual relationship, and that might answer the questions about what they're doing together, or at least like not answer it, but like comment on why they're together. Okay. Hold on, that triggered another thought. I don't remember what it was. Okay, Ariel.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. Well, I'm gonna just start off by saying I think it's really important to ask the basic questions of like who's the audience
Okay.
and what's the subject, because I think the audience here is actually important.
Yeah, and I think just to give you, not that this is an exhaustive set of options here, but like, is this talking to a person who might be harmed by these guys doing this kind of listening, or are you actually, this is another possibility for Isaiah, or the audience of the pasuk, right? In other words, maybe you are talking about, you're speaking lashon aven, and it's going to attract an evildoer. That would be bad for you, So yeah, who's the audience? Go ahead.
Yeah, and what's the subject of the pasuk? But those are my questions, but like not my real questions. My main question is why are these two characters specifically attracted to these two things?
Yeah, I think we had that. Those were our first two questions. Yeah,
we
what is it
did?
about? Oh, actually, no, okay, you can say that that's different. Okay, I'll tack your question onto here. Alternatively, what is it about the evildoer that attracts him to Sfas Oven? Okay, I think you can characterize it either way. Okay, but yeah, and then similarly, alternatively, what is it about the ish sheker that attracts him to lashon havuos? Yeah. I just want to go back again just to spell out methodology here to explain what Ariel means by what is the subject of the pasuk. So, not every pasuk has to have one subject, but if you say that the pasuk is about one subject, it might affect the way you learn it. So, for example, if we said that this is about, I don't know, lying, so then it could take us in one direction. But if we said it's about, the consequences of speaking, that'd be another one, or the consequences of listening, or hanging around people who are these guys, so different subjects point to different approaches. Okay. I'm assuming Ariel's hand is just left over up. So go to Ayala.
I think this is a different question from the one that was asked before, but
Yeah.
what are the negative consequences of both of these halves?
Okay, so explain to me again what the difference is between that and what's so bad about listening to it?
I guess that's already like assuming, I don't know, just to me this pasuk seems like it's just saying these two actions. I guess if you're saying that, like we get the vibe that it's negative, but like what exactly is
Okay. So let's I don't know why my intuition is telling me to do this, but I'm going to actually tack that onto the question of what is the practical application, and I'm going to actually just combine that with what is the bad decision and what are the consequences. Okay, we don't usually pair those two together, but for some reason I want to put them together here. Okay, I think that'll cover it. YUTorah.
I don't know how new this will be, but I just wanted to say I can already see a question kind of on it, but can someone be both of these?
Okay, that's a good question.
I already see with I think it was, what is it? Maybe 6? No, wait. But
yeah, that's about the two characters.
But basically just like, yeah, can the two characters be one character?
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna actually put that in 5, which is, can these two characters coexist?
And then also on the translation of Havuos, I feel like desire and destruction are a bit like too far to just be synonyms.
So let me how do I do this? I think when I do these translation thingies, then comma indicates a completely different translation, whereas slash indicates that it's a synonym. So these are meant to be two different ones. And I think it comes from the fact that, if I remember correctly, if you learn it as the shoresh is haya, then and which means being, and you're talking about a Mishleic fool, then it means his essence, which is his desire. But if it's a different theory of what the root of havuos is, then it means destruction. So they're not supposed to be synonyms, just to clarify. Yeah. Okay. Avital.
YUTorah again. So the question I have is about the word al, which literally means on.
I know. I was wondering about that also.
Usually when we say you're Machshavah Lab, you listen to in Hebrew. So I think the al is a little idiosyncratic.
Okay, yeah, I'll put that as a question. I was kind of just glossing over it because I don't know if that's just an accepted use. Okay, where would I put this one? I'm going to put this one over here, which is what do we make of the strange preposition al? Okay, literally, listens upon or on lashon sfas aven. Yeah, right. I'm just trying to think. Do you have? Let me just think of this as any examples that I can think of where it says. Actually, yeah, you say like for example, I just wanted to give you a support here. Earlier in Mishlei, we say lahakshiv la chachma oznacha, to listen attentively to chachma, not on chachma. So yeah, just wanted to get that there. Okay, Rivki.
Yeah, this is not like a new question. I'm just really struggling, kind of like thinking out loud. I'm really struggling with why, like, how are the people that are involved and then the actions lining up? Like when I was just reading through the pasuk again, I just feel like the people sound so much worse in his description than the actions that they're doing. Like I'm not seeing that.
All right, that's a good that's a good like intuitive current pasuk. Okay. How do I want to phrase this? I think, tell me if this is what you're saying. Yeah, I'm just gonna actually, I'm not gonna even formulate it. I'm just gonna say like it's weird that actually, you know what? I'm gonna put this in the subject pasuk, okay? What is the subject of the pasuk? And there's something weird about the fact that we're focusing on an action that isn't so bad compared to the definition of the character. In other words, an evildoer, that's really bad, listens carefully to Sfas Oven, and a liar listens to Lashon Tovos. It's just like if you said like, you know, murderers don't pet puppies. Like it just is not, you know.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, okay, like maybe they're gonna like rob a bank or like,
yeah, exactly. They're doing a lot of other stuff.
Like I don't know what they're gonna do.
Yeah, you know what else May-Ra does? He does Ra. Like, you know, so like, yeah. All right, that's good. Good. I don't want to call it a question or a problem. It's like a hunch, you know, or like a intuition. Yeah. Okay, Isaiah.
Okay. Sorry, 1 second. So, does the listening, is that what? How does it relate to the quality that the people have? Like, is it causing them to be a Meira, or is it an attribute that Meira?
So now we have a complete formulation of questions 2 and 3. So what is the relationship between the person and the activity, right? Is it what's the causal direction? Yeah, I'll put that also. What is the causal direction? Okay, yeah, that's basically what the way that Shmuel and Ariel were asking, or was Ariel? Who I forgot who it was. I think it was Ariel. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, Rivki.
Yeah, just methodology and like trying to think about a way to take this.
Yeah.
When we're thinking about Avon, what's like a good? I just feel like they're all so different. I mean, really wickedness versus the other two. Like, is there a specific direction or more just kind of like?
Yeah. Okay. So this is what I don't think we've had this in a while, or this term. At least I don't remember saying this in a while. This is what I call a Rubik's Cube pasuk. Okay. That just like when you have a Rubik's Cube, you are, well, if you know what you're doing, then you don't do this. But like the Rubik's Cube of Amihards, like myself, you just like try out different things and then just see what the different combinations are and how they line up, and then you try it a different way, you know. So like I think you just I think it would be methodologically ill-advised to try to combine these into one concept. I think you just have to like keep a certain flexibility and sift through. And I'll mention this other methodology just because it's good to remind us of what every once in a while is that one approach when you are like, in a minute we're going to sit there and think about the pasuk, right? So one approach is to take the translation that makes the most sense to you or that feels the most natural to you. Rabbi Moskowitz's approach, my Rebbe, was to take the most non-intuitive translation because he would say it's more fun that way, but also he would say you get more creative ideas that way, you know, because you're forced to think counterintuitively. So those are two tips for how to deal with that. Yeah, Isaiah.
Sorry, I just had another question to tack on. I actually don't know if they asked it, but what's with the different grammatical constructions between Meira and Sheker?
Yeah, like, that's a good question also.
The Sheker could have been like Mishaker or something like that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm gonna stick with my practice of making stylistic or like hyperlinguistic questions in italics. So why the two different constructions of Meira versus Sheker? Okay, meaning that you should say Mishaker, maybe, right? It would be the equivalent of Meira, or Ra, which would mean Ish Ra, just like Sheker means Ish Sheker, right? I'll put that here also. It should be either be Meira and Mishaker, or Ra and sheker. Okay. I'm going to pretend that those are all the questions. Okay, if we have more, we can always add. But now, I missed a chat. Shmuel says in the chat, in modern Hebrew, Safa means language where Lashon has to do more with a specific dialect or wording. Yeah, I just wrote about that in my Parshas Noach article. That's according to Rav Hirsch. I don't know if that's a unanimous theory, but yeah, that's what Rav Hirsch says. Okay, so I'm reposting the translation, the pasuk in the translation, and now I'm going to try to post all these. This is going to take multiple shots here. Okay, there's those. And then there's these. You can start thinking about it while I change all the numbers like we got to do with Zoom every time. Oops, sorry, I got them wrong. Thinking minute has not officially begun yet, but I permit you to think. Okay, that's 7. And then 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Oh, I almost got it. I should have just done the end and then practical application 14. Okay. And now is time to take a minute to think. Isn't it great to be back to Mishlei? Yes.
Yep.
Okay, nice. Okay, good. I got something. Okay, Ariel, you're up.
Yeah, I think that the point that Rifki made before, I think that's exactly the point.
I think so also. Go ahead.
I think that them not doing them doing like an innocent act is shows you how dangerous they can actually be. They like an evildoer, his entire like he is a man who does evil. That's his definition. That's kind of like the premise you have to take when you interact with a guy like this.
Okay.
So
you're saying that you're defining him. You're saying that when you see someone do an act of listening to Sfas Oven, that should cause you to define him as a Meirah?
No.
Okay.
I'm reading this pasuk as, I could be totally wrong, but I'm reading it as in like there's an evildoer who listens attentively.
Yeah.
That's how I'm reading it.
Okay.
So by definition, this is who he is. Right now, just because he listens attentively doesn't necessarily make him a good guy, right?
Okay.
So he is a type of guy. He's an opportunistic individual. He thrives on oven. He thrives on people who who have trouble or sorrow or whatever. Like he'll take that and he can ruin someone for his own selfish benefit.
I'm not something's not clicking. Can you maybe give me an example? Because I'm just not seeing how you're reading the pasuk.
Well, Rifki has her party up.
Okay.
Maybe you can help me out over
Rifki,
here.
you want to jump in?
I don't.
Oh no! Slight connectivity
This is
issues.
exactly what you were saying. So just stop me and then. No, wait 1 second. Can you hear better or no?
Yeah, I can hear. Yeah, but you're frozen visually, so I don't know what's going on.
Am I back?
Yes, you're back now.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm good now.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. So I was saying, I think this is what you're saying, but stop me if it's not. Oh, stop me if
What
it's
was
not.
that?
Yeah, my Zoom always does this where it's very exciting.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
I
sorry,
can go
go
on
ahead.
and on with the effects. But no, so I have a different idea, but I also was thinking a little bit similarly to what Ariel was saying. So were you trying to say, Ariel, that like almost that, hold on, sorry, I just have to reorient myself after the effects.
Yeah.
Can you just say what you were saying
Yeah,
again?
yeah. I'll try it again.
We'll try again. Yeah.
I think there's an individual who is a rot. He, like, that's just who he is.
Okay.
Right now, he's living life as, you know, that individual, and he's going to be listening to people. He's going to be listening to people's speech for his own gain.
Okay.
Now, let's assume, I don't know, there's a guy who's a normal guy who's just struggling, you know, a third party, not the evildoer. This guy's struggling, he's got issues, he's got trouble, like whatever it is. The evildoer is gonna take what he says, he's gonna listen attentively, and he's gonna try to find a way to do harm. Either to him just because he's an evildoer, or more reasonably because he may want to benefit himself somehow, taking advantage of the situation.
Okay, and then let me test out my understanding of your first half by trying to see what you would say for the second half. So for the second half, would you also say that the man of falsehood is going to listen? I think the one that fits better for here maybe is, well, okay, I give you either one: speech of desire or speech of destruction, meaning like, I guess, speech about destruction or desire, but the falsehood guy is going to like prey upon that.
Yeah, somehow I don't. Yeah, I have to define what a guy of falsehood is. I'm not really sure who that would be.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say that, yeah.
Okay, so now I see the structure of how you're doing it, right? Okay, so you're saying that really what the pasuk is talking about is that there's gonna speech, svas avin and lashon havus are like vulnerabilities that are gonna attract. It's kind of like they're like the blood in the water that's gonna attract the sharks of the meirah and the sheker. That's like the approach you're taking?
Yeah, and I would. The audience is someone they should just be careful. You know, they should. You know, I don't know. Like the question that I had was like, let's say someone. I don't know. Let's say someone's like sick. Let's say someone's in sorrow.
Yeah.
Meaning, like, I mean, he has the right to, you know, have sorrow or for whatever. Or maybe someone died. I don't know, but like, I just think that, you know, I guess if he knows that someone's an evildoer, he should be careful with what he says, or just be mindful of what you say.
Yeah.
You may not know he's an evildoer.
Okay, so
you should just be careful.
Okay, good. So that's a good practical application. So the practical application is if you're voicing let's say if you're thinking about voicing your sorrows, okay, beware that there are people out there who, even if they listen attentively, which, like Rifki said, which is usually a good thing, they will be, you know, using that to take advantage of you. Okay, and then do you have a stance for what lashon havus is? Because I think that would make things easier to.
I don't know.
Okay, I think maybe if you said destruction and not said that it is a tongue that is destroying, but talking about destruction, you know, like some destruction that you've experienced, then that would at least be more parallel to what you're saying here.
Yeah.
You know,
I want to say one last thing.
Or sorry, just one second. Maybe it could be the other way around. Maybe if you're talking about your desires, so then the liar, like kind of like a charlatan, will come and try to take advantage of playing on your desires. You know. Like,
yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
I
think it's much better, right?
Yeah.
Just one second. If you voice your desires, there will be charlatans who take advantage of that. And I think the one I want to hear what you want to say, but I also think to really like put a bow on this, we need to know what is the subject of the pasuk, because I think we've got it in our grips here. Yeah, but go ahead, Ariel.
Yeah, I want to say one last thing about you know, it's interesting. I know, like in sales, you know, they teach you to listen attentively. You know, like be an active listener, and I think that in itself is very it's powerful in the sense that like it makes people feel like it builds rapport, like people
Right.
like people who listen.
Right, because it does appeal to the ego, and I'm not saying that in a bad way, but like people feel the default stance of a person is they recognize on some level
Being heard.
that they're not the center of the world. So anything that affirms that they are the center of the world or that they are important or are special is is validating. So like they're attracted to that.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes them dangerous, because I think that they're willing to, or they're able to, or they're capable of doing this, and you just have to be conscious.
Okay, good. I remember one thing we forgot to do, and then we'll go on to Isaiah. Is it's been so long. I want to just take a look at what the pasuk before this was, or the pasukim before this, and the pasukim after this.
Rifki has a party hat out, by the way. Just
who did?
Rifki.
Okay, good. Thank you. I couldn't see that. So actually, Rifki, why don't you say your thing before we go to the pasukim?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, because I also had a very similar thought, like when I was cutting out, that I think, like, just practically speaking, like, just because someone listens to you, and I know you said something very similar in his little blurb, like, that doesn't mean that that's someone that you should automatically be forming a relationship with.
Right.
And I think, like, this is even with, like, let's say a therapist, like, just because your therapist listens to you doesn't mean, like, really though, like, there's a lot of therapists, and like, you have to find people that will challenge you in the right way. Like, I think if we all just live lives that, like, okay, great, like, people are listening to you, like, that's a great thing, but at the end of the day, like, you need to, if you want to grow as a person, then you have to surround yourself with people that will help you grow in like a healthy way, and not just like, first of all, number one, either like listen to you but then use you, like Aria was saying, for their own gain, or like even change like what you actually wanted by just like listening.
Yeah, all right, that's good. Yeah, all right, that's good. Okay, so the psukim we had before this are better a piece of dry bread with tranquility in it than a house filled with the meat of strife. Then an intelligent servant will rule over a shameful son, and he will divide inheritance among brothers. Then a crucible is for silver and a melting pot is for gold, but Hashem tests hearts. So, and then the next one is actually, I don't want to translate it yet. Okay, I just wanted to rev up into this, right? So, yeah, not an obvious connection. Well, actually, maybe. Can you see a connection between this and the previous one about the crucible for silver and a melting pot for gold and Hashem tests hearts? I think it is loosely connected. So I don't know if it's connected to the ideas we said, but I think there is an idea also in 3 is that a human being cannot always tell what other people's intentions are or what their inner thoughts are, right? And that was the way we learned that Hashem, can know that, but you can't necessarily know that. And because you can't know that, don't fall into these traps. I think that's like just the segue there. Okay, Isaiah, you're up.
So I don't want to learn like how Aria was learning that, like the Merah and Sheker have like a certain nature, and then therefore they act this way.
Yeah.
More want to say like how a person might come to do Ra or Sheker. Like, it's not necessarily like people are just like evil, and then evil actions like flow out of them. Like sometimes you hear certain things and they cause you to like you act on them from a. Basically, what I think is like, what if what it's saying is like a person hears someone who would do evil is someone who heard the voice of Avin and listened to it and like thought from like good they had good intentions, quote unquote, and did evil because of what they heard. What they heard.
Okay.
Like they heard someone's sorrow, and then they like acted emotionally based off of what they heard, and they ended up doing evil because they didn't relate to what they heard in like a rational way. They're a person who is capable of doing Ra, and they heard this thing and decided to do Ra based off of what they heard. Or someone, or I guess if a person gives ear to Lashon Havos, I guess like destructive speech, like someone like they end up causing some sort of sheker to come about. So I'm not.
I have a perfect example. Okay, hold on just a second, and had an emotional reaction to it, and acted in a manner that caused Ra. Okay, perfect example. This morning in my what I'm thinking about this morning post, I wrote a review of Brandon Stanton's latest book, Dear New York. Okay, so this is the Humans of New York guy. So I apologize for people who have read this my review already, but basically, I've been following Humans of New York for a very long time. Okay, and this is a guy who is a photographer, and he's a street photographer, and he has this way of interviewing people and really capturing like the true human spirit, or the condition, or the essence of who he's just very, very good at getting to the heart of like the humanity of human beings, and I love his work. And then, my brother Johnny was featured in Humans of New York, like maybe 15 years ago or whatever. And, and that's where I like learned his process. And like, he had like a long conversation with Johnny, and then just took out this like one snippet that like perfectly captured it. Okay. But what happened a few months ago, earlier this year? So then Brandon featured a huge series on like the pro-Palestinian cause. Okay. And a lot of Jews I know got really mad, and they like, were angry at him, or boycotted him, or threatened to boycott him. And I emailed him and explain my thoughts or whatever. And he emailed me back, very, very nice email. And and then he kept on doing it. And I said in my review, I genuinely do not think that he's anti-Semitic. He might be anti-Israel because, but I think he is, a not victim, but he succumbed to the propaganda. Okay. But here's the thing. And this is what this is the part I agree with the critiques is by not being attentive to the fact that there's a huge rise in anti-Semitic crimes and violence. He is fueling that by drawing attention to this Palestinian narrative, and to not be sensitive to that fact, like he doesn't know that he has a platform with millions of people, and that by promoting this ideology, he is putting Jews at risk, So that's a case where he is genuinely listening attentively. He's not a meirah. He's genuinely listening attentively to Sfas Avin, to speech of trouble. But that's causing him to do Ra because he's not thinking about how he should actually react, And similarly, if you listen to the speech of destruction, meaning I'm going to apply it in this particular case, speech of people who have suffered destruction, and undeniably people in Gaza have suffered destruction, that might cause you to fall prey to sheker because you're so caught up in the empathy that you don't actually do your research and check to make sure that this is actually true. Again, I just think it's a very good example. I don't want to limit it to this. You give other examples also where someone is sick, and the person who cares for them listens attentively and is so caught up in the person's sorrow that they end up doing something that's not really in the person's best interests, So I think that's a good approach.
Yeah. I also just wanted to add on, like, this is why I thought maybe you could say that the person talking is like himself. It's because definitely people do this within themselves. So like they have a thought like, oh, they feel bad about themselves, or they have some like trouble that they're worried about, and they end up like acting that out in a way that ends up causing harm. So I feel like it works internally and externally.
Okay, so I will tell you that if you take it as the derech nister, as the Meiri's esoteric approach, which is about the internal dynamics, the IFS, like the internal parts, so then it would work that way. So I think that could work. The only thing I don't like about your reading, it's not a critique of the idea, is this is such a subject-forward pasuk where it's saying the meirah listens attentively to Sfas Avin. To me, it is not a smooth read to say one who listens attentively to Sfas Avin will cause harm. I'm not saying you can't read it that way. I'm saying to me it's not the most pleasant intuitive reading. It's not the most what's the word I'm looking for? Elegant reading, you know? So that's my only critique.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Okay, Shmuel, you're up.
Sweet. Thanks, Rabbi. I just made food, and I couldn't help but think about this as sort of a recipe. Because, and I was thinking about this earlier. When I want to think as a recipe.
As a recipe, okay.
Yeah, in part. Someone said earlier that, you know, it's a bad person, evildoer, and a liar, for all lack of better words.
Liar's fine.
What makes them, what they're describing doing in this pasuk isn't their essence. But what it's saying is, it's cautioning, I think, against paying too much attention to these specific types of people. Hold on. I want to use the translation. I think I used the Sadia Gaon's translation. The evildoer, you know, the Aven who's this person who is very sad. He's not reasonable and destructive person. You know, you can't expect, you know, for these people to have reasonability or logic in anything they say. You know, so someone who's going to give credit to these sort of things, that's a red flag. You know, I think that's what in so many words.
Okay, so let me just make sure I understand what you're saying so far, which is that if a person is attracted to this type of speech, words of oven and speech of a destructive person, that attraction is a signal, is a red flag that there's something you should guard against in the person. Or maybe not something you should guard against, but like, I guess what's tripping me up is we would all agree that there is a type of listening to someone who's experiencing sorrow that is positive. So that's why I'm not sure if it's like an automatic red flag. I feel like I'm missing something in what you're saying.
Yeah. So definitely you can constructively listen to some. I mean, when you go to the house of a mourner, you're
that's a good example.
You're really not meant to say anything. You're just supposed to sit there, right. And that's the best way, you know. But really, you know, that's just a comfort thing for them, and you're not really internalizing any or much of what they're saying, because they're very sad, and if you internalize that, you'll also be sad.
Okay, so how does that lead to being an evildoer or a liar?
I'm on a tangent. Sorry. Right. So one of the attributes of a liar or an evildoer is that they give credit to the jargon, the rhetoric, or of these two types of people. You know, they're not only are they listening, they're not listening constructively, they're listening for their own benefit, and they internalize these sort of things. A destructive person, all he seeks to do is to destabilize, you know. And so a liar he destabilizes the truth. And an evildoer is going to take the unreasonabilities of someone who is very sad, and he's going to use that to his advantage. And so these attributes are something, you know, if you follow along and incorporate these attributes that these people might have, that's a bad thing.
Okay, I'm still not hearing the unity of the idea. I'm hearing and maybe it's just because I'm hearing similar languages to multiple ideas from before. I'm not getting the unified idea. So I'm gonna say think about it more. I'm gonna go on to someone else for now, and then I can come back to you if you think you can get it clear, and then we'll give it another try. Okay.
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right. YUTorah, Avital.
Yeah, so I want to say something that's kind of a foil to what Isaiah was saying, that the pasuk is talking like about characterizing evil, or like the evil person and the sheker person.
Yeah.
Also that the two halves are like they have slightly different meanings.
Yeah.
I think what it's saying in the first half is what, like, an evil person, what defines him as evil is the thing he has like a pulse out for, or thing he's keeping tabs for, like in the public square, what he's listening in on, is specifically the like wickedness, like opportunities to do wickedness. Yeah, like just whatever his type of wickedness is. Let's say to go rob a bank, or
Right.
to go mess people over, find how he can benefit.
Yeah.
And that's what defines him as evil. I mean, there's no
Okay.
action that he's doing. There's the fact that what he has his feelers out for is things of evil. Like that's what his attention is on, and that's what his focus is on.
Okay.
Linguistically, I think makshiv is a little more like strong, like listening closely, as you were saying. So
Yeah.
over here, when you have a person who's doing like premeditated evil, so they're going to be listening closely, trying to get all the nuances, figure out their plan, etc. So that's what I want to say for the first half of the pasuk.
Okay, good.
And for the sheker mizan alashon havos, I want to say that that means desire, and like a person who's caught up by non-truth, meaning what they're running after are their desires. So what they're going to be doing, meaning listening, not as closely listening, just because you don't need to premeditate as much, but oh, here's an opportunity for pleasure here, here's an opportunity for desire there, and then they'll run after that, and that's what characterizes the person of sheker. And maybe just one more point. I didn't get the difference. I don't have an idea for the difference between the word sfas and lashon. But I think for the word al, like when you're listening you're listening to somebody. This person's not really listening to someone. They're just like, if you think like what radio channel they have, they're listening about. They're listening like to more generally.
That's a good nuance.
Yeah, like that source of knowledge.
Yeah.
Or that source of information. And also, like, I don't know if this is like, if like on purpose, so to speak, but I think al sfas is also cool because it also means like on the shore of, like on the bay river. So it's like,
he's on the edge of his seat or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's like listening right by the side, like already ready to jump in.
Yeah. All right. That's good. The only thing I feel like I'm missing here is I understand how the evildoer, the essence of the evildoer is not the act he does, but the fact that that's his value system, such that he's attuned to looking for opportunities for evil. So that I get. How are you understanding the sheker person?
So I wanted to say that sheker isn't someone who lies, but someone who's living a life not in line with the truth. Like their values are not truth, just chasing desire. So that type of person, that prototype, what defines them is the fact that what they're listening out for is desire opportunities rather than living a life of truth.
Okay, so I think that's the only thing that I'm not satisfied with in this idea, which is that to me that is a stretch to say that we're going to call that person a sheker, because we have a lot of words. First of all, it's just a weird way to call that person, even if it's philosophically true. But also, like the main word in Mishlei for a person who's living a life of desire, we have several words. We have a ksil, who's someone who's like a bal taiva, like a hardened pleasure seeker, or we have the na'ar, who is chasing pleasures because he's still in his youthful like immaturity, or we have I guess sometimes the avil is someone who's like looking for immediate pleasure. So like to me, if you're this is again methodology here from Rav Pesach, which is that that if you want to know if you got the right idea, then ask yourself, if I were Shlomo HaMelech writing out my idea as a proverb, is this how I would write it? And it is obviously you don't really know that that's how he would do it, but like it's just a litmus test. And I feel like sheker is a really weird word to use to express the idea that you're saying to me. Even if it's philosophically true. Like, yeah, I agree with you 100%. Person who's living a life of hedonism or pleasure is caught up in a world of falsehood. But I don't know, we have words for that, and calling him a sheker guy just seems to put the emphasis on the wrong place,
Interesting.
For me.
Just comment on that one thing.
Yeah.
With the sheker, like I don't know if this actually like fully responds to it, but in some ways, like somebody who's going after, whether it's like desire or destruction, or even like listening in on this kind of like speech, almost like it doesn't matter whether this stuff is true or not. Like he doesn't actually care.
Right.
He's not like there to actually like listen to anybody, like whether it's looking for like the word on the street, whether it's, you want to say like to get what he wants or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Or just like for like self-pleasure or whatever, like it makes no difference whether it's true or not.
Yeah.
And maybe like that plays like a role into like why he's called that.
Interesting. Yeah, I see what you're saying, meaning that the thing that he's interested in is not even necessarily true. It's just, yeah, I hear that. Yeah, still doesn't sit well with me, but I like the idea though. The idea is good. Okay, Rifki wants to add to that.
Yeah, can I add to it and then I can go?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. No, I'm just gonna add also like to Yitzi, it's crazy because I literally just heard this like a few hours ago. I was listening to a shiur, and this I think works for Yitzi's benefit, even if you feel like in the Mishlei.
Yeah, it's fine. You ignore my question. Yeah.
But no, she was just saying, she said, like I was learning, it was on Megillas Esther, and she said she's taking it like really deep, like more, how can we understand it? Whatever. It's very interesting. I recommend it if anyone wants to listen. I can send it. But she was saying that she went back to Adam and Chava and like what exactly like with like the Eitz Hadas Tov Ra, and she actually says that like, well, I actually pulled up my notes here. She said that Emet is Tov and that Sheker is Ra. And she was kind of expanding on that idea that like, that's why Sheker is so bad. Like that, because it's causing you to do Ra, perpetuates the cycle of Ra because of what Yitzi was saying. Like Yitzi idea. Yeah, that's what I wanted
okay.
to that.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right, now your idea.
Okay. And then my idea, I think, wait, can everyone else see I don't see is that just me that I can't see the screen anymore? Oh, there you go. Yeah, I just changed it. Now I can see. Because I wanted to make sure, I think it's very similar to Yetzi's idea, so just tell me if it is the same. But I was kind of thinking, to me, this sounds like a lot just like, almost like cherry picking or like surrounding ourselves with things that we want to hear just to confirm our like biases about the world. Because like the first person, like the evildoer, obviously if you listen to wickedness, then you're going to keep being a wicked person. You're not going to give yourself any room to, develop other opinions or get like a full story of something or, whatever it is. And then I think the same thing with the second half. Hold on, I'm just going to see if I have like anything more specific to say about it. But that's what this reminded me of. Like when you don't diversify your, group or your community or whatever it is, you're just going to be that person. And it's especially bad for them because they're not going to not ever, but they're going to have a much lower chance of like doing tshuva or making themselves, that's kind of what I was thinking.
Okay, that's good. That's going to be a good addition to my idea, but I think it's good on its own. Okay, Racheli.
Okay, so I'm not sure if this is very similar to what people have said before, but I was thinking that the language is saying like Amira is an evildoer, but he's not really doing anything. He's doing something very passive. He's listening. And I think there's, wait, let me see what I wrote.
Sure.
Okay, the pasuk is describing a passive action, but even just by passively listening to words of wickedness or destruction, you're still characterized as someone who actively is doing a sin.
Okay. Yeah. Actively doing Ra. Okay. Yeah. That is, so funny because, the majority of the people who have given ideas tonight have learned the pasuk in that direction of like, that this thing is what makes you a Meira. It's such an interesting thing. I mean, I see why you guys are learning it that way. But it's not the way my intuition is going, but I can't say it's wrong, but yeah, it is interesting. Okay. Yeah. Did you have more or that was, okay. Okay. So I found my notes from when I taught this. Okay. And I'm not going to read my notes yet. I'm going to try to say it, but here's what I rejoiced about. Okay. I found, and I don't know if we've ever done this, a commentary from Shadal on Mishlei. Okay. Now Shadal, he must have not written a commentary on Mishlei. We must just have his notes because it's so rare to get a Shadal thing. Okay. So he says, so I'm going to read it because I think he's reading it the way I want to read it, but I explain it a little bit differently. He says, and this is a ChatGPT translation, so I didn't have time to translate it on my own, so I'm going to read the Hebrew. Sheker Mezin, Ha'ish Rasha, so he just says it's a Rasha, who mate ozen le'ish shakran. Oh, sorry. I'm getting two things mixed up. My idea is not attached to him. It's a different idea. That's why I highlighted. Okay, anyway, I'll say my idea, okay? So my idea is like this, all right? I'm going to try talking it out, and then I'll read my notes afterwards. So a Meira, I'm starting off with a Meira is someone who does acts of evil, okay? And a Sheker is a guy who lies. Okay, now, you might think, what is bad about the meira. What's bad about him is that he does acts of evil. And what's bad about the ish sheker is the fact that he lies, okay? But the pasuk is obviously trying to show you that there's a commonality between the two, and I think that's why it uses such parallel language. So what do they have in common? So what they have in common is that why do people do evil and why do they lie? Let me ask you, why do people, if you had to say what do they have in common that liars and evildoers have in common? What's the thing they have in common?
Going after the desire.
Yeah, desires, or like Rachel said, personal gain, right? So that's the way we normally think of it. So in comes Shlomo and he says, you know what they have in common? They listen really closely to speech of wickedness and to speech of destruction. So we as Mishlei readers are like, what? That's what they have in common? So what I think the idea is like this, is it's true that the evildoer does evil for personal gain. I'm not denying that. And it's true that liars lie for personal gain. However, there is another fantasy or desire that satisfies in them, namely the desire to be a lawless individual. Okay, that it's not just I'm going to do this thing because I want. I'm not just going to steal because I want the let me put it this way: you can have a guy who steals because he's hungry. Okay, but then a thief is not just stealing for the gain. There is a fantasy that the thief has, or an enjoyment that the thief has of not being bound by any law or morality or whatever you want to say. So too with the sheker thing, people lie for personal gain, but there is a pleasure that the liar has just in the fact that I can manipulate reality with my words. Okay, and you see this in little kids when they first learn how to lie. Like there's like an enjoyment, a power that they have of like, oh, I can lie and like make people think things. So what does that have to do with listening? So here's my idea. Okay, is if it were just about personal gain, so then he's not going to listen to other Rashaim talking about evil, as in entertainment. Okay, it's only because he fantasizes about this that hearing other people talking about their exploits, satisfies that fantasy. Okay, and so too, the person who lies, it's true that he lies for personal gain, but there's also the feeling that I can totally shape or make or break reality through my own words. And when he hears, in fact, I actually now have to look and see how I translated the pasuk when I taught it. I translated it as, actually, I'm going to just now read my summary from like many years ago, okay, and see if I adequately said it. So I translated it as the wrongdoer pays close attention to speech of injustice. Okay, I translated it to injustice, and the liar listens attentively to words of destruction. So here's my summary of my idea from 15 years ago, 20 years ago. When a person does a wrongful action, not only is he giving in to the particular emotion which caused him to act, but he's also satisfying the greater underlying fantasy, the fantasy of being the lawless man who is not limited or restricted by any system or order. This is evidenced by the fact that wrongdoers like listening to people talk about acts of injustice, since this is a way of indulging their fantasies of lawlessness. By the way, a good example of this is, and I'm not speaking from experience, but like in the gangster rap world, people who are involved in crime like listening to songs about doing crime. Why? Because it affirms and validates and fuels their fantasies of that lifestyle. If it was just about the practical, they wouldn't indulge in listening to that, because what does me listening to some other guy talking about his crimes have to do with me getting gain? Yitzi, by the way, is answering that question, because Yitzi's saying they're also listening for opportunities. But Yitzi was saying listening attentively because they're like, they got their ear to the ground looking for new opportunities. I'm saying listening attentively, like in the just they again, like entertainment, like they're just drawn to listening to it. It excites them. Okay. Similarly, when a person lies, not only is he giving in to the particular emotion that caused him to lie, but he's also satisfying the greater underlying fantasy of the destroyer, one who can annihilate inconvenient or painful realities at will. Okay, that was what I was forgetting. This is evidenced by the fact that liars like listening to people talk about acts of destruction, since this is a way of indulging their fantasies of destruction. Okay, so I'm saying that what the pasuk is pointing to is The pasuk is not like you guys are saying, like many of you are saying, where the pasuk is saying, by the way, this action can make you into a meira, or this action of listening can make you into an ish sheker. I'm saying no. We know what the meira is, and we know what the ish sheker is, and we know why they usually do it. This pasuk is bringing out a new idea, which is that you can tell, you know, you can detect another level of their evil by what they're attracted to. The meira is attracted to talk about other people doing acts of destruction, you know. And again, you see this also in you know, certain I'm not going to go into examples from history, but like, you know, certain evil regimes with dictators will rejoice when some other random dictator, you know, pulls off his coup, you know, or not his coup, but his acts of destruction. Why? That doesn't benefit you. You have your own your own you know, country that you're ruining. Because why is he like listening to it? Because it again, it validates him. It makes him feel like you know, that satisfaction, like the vicarious enjoyment. Okay, so that's my idea. Any questions on that?
Yeah. What's the practical takeaway?
Okay, good question. So in order to answer the practical takeaway, I think you have to talk about who the audience is. Okay, so what I want to say is that the reason why this does not talk about the Russia or the Ramia, which are the definitional archetypes of wickedness and sheker, is, even though I think they exemplify it, I think this is saying that if you engage in an act of evil doing, then you're also fueling this fantasy, and you can tell if you're starting to give into this fantasy because you're now attracted to listening to other people talking about stuff like this, you know? And again, I know I always go on this example, but I think it is I think it is a good example, is in Breaking Bad. Walter White starts off just by wanting to make enough money by, you know, creating a high quality meth and selling it. He just wants to make enough money to provide for his family when he dies of cancer, right? But then he starts doing it, and so he's purely practical. His motives are noble, okay? But then as he does it, he starts getting the satisfaction of being a powerful criminal, and then there's an admiration he has when he encounters other Rishaim succeeding in this area, and he's attracted to that. So what this pasuk is saying to him is, this is a red flag, is that you start doing an act of evil and you're doing it for good reasons or whatever, but you're also indulging in this fantasy that every Russia has, and you know that you are succumbing to that fantasy if you find yourself attracted to that. So I think the audience, the practical application is for people who are tempted by doing acts of evil, and it's saying this is going to put you down a road because you're going to satisfy. Don't think that you're just going to satisfy the practical reason why you did it. When you steal, even the people who are stealing, like again, you know, Johnny, when he went to Kenya, got a tour of, I think, the largest slum in Africa, and he had a tour guide named Typhoon. And Typhoon was like in his early 20s, but he grew up being one of those kids in Mishlei in the first chapter who are running around robbing and killing people, you know, to take their money. And because that, you know, that was what you need to do to survive. So like, it'd be very easy to look at someone like that and say, oh no, he's just doing it to survive. But no. Mishlei is saying he's doing more. He's indulging in a fantasy of the lawless man, and that fantasy will pull him in directions beyond practical benefit, and beyond like utilitarian benefit. And the way he could tell if he's being drawn into that is by what he's attracted to. Does that answer your question, Isaiah? I'll take that as a maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, good. And I'm glad you asked it, because that really, you know, was a capstone of the idea. Okay, now let's look at some meforshim. Okay, and we're gonna just do our usual one and then call it a night by 8:15. Okay, Mitzudas David, I have not looked at this yet. Meira. Okay, so he says Ish Ra, an evil man, Makshiv lishmoa davar aven v'sheker, listens attentively to a. Wait, how did he translate oven? Did he translate oven? I just want to look at the Mitzudas ציון. Mitzudas ציון. He did not translate oven. So it sounds like he's taking oven as a synonym for falsehood. To a statement of falsehood. Okay. V'chein b'hafach. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. And similarly, the opposite. I don't know what I say. Ki ha'ish shakran, for the lying man, ma'azin lishmoa lashon havuos, will listen to destructive speech. Lishbor b'nei adam, to break people, ulahera lahem, and to harm them. Bratlamar ahuvim hemazelazeh. Oh, I see. In other words, they are beloved to each other, v'lo yispardu, and they will not separate. Okay, so first of all, just summary. Okay. Oh, okay. I just missed this. Okay, I see what he's doing. So he's saying like this: is the Meirah likes listening to the Ish Sheker, okay? And the Ish Sheker likes listening to the Meirah, in order to help each other engage in their respective forms of evil. Okay. And in other words, they make good partners. Okay, so the question is, what's the idea? And is this true? I still don't feel like I fully get it. Like, I get why an Ish Ra will want a good liar as a buddy, because that good liar is going to help him to use lies to perpetuate the evil. But why is a liar going to want to pair up with an Ish Ra? Maybe because the liar, the Ish Ra is going to be willing to do, maybe he's learning the Ish Ra is the person who's doing acts of harm, and the Ish Sheker is the person who's lying to facilitate it. Yin Yang, but they're both Yangs. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, so is that the idea? Is that maybe it means, I'm just going to type this out just so we could see it and talk about it here, is the Meirah is willing to do bad actions, okay, but doesn't necessarily know how to manipulate people to make it happen, okay? That's why he values the liar, okay? The liar is good at manipulating people, but isn't necessarily going to act on it, okay? But if they team up, they'll get what they want. And a perfect example, anyone have examples that come to mind? I have a classic example, classic pairing. Hitler and Goebbels. How do you spell Goebbels? There's an R in there, right? Or no, there's no, whatever. How do you spell? Oh, was that it? Did it give me a, no. Oh, that's how you spell it. Yeah. Right. So there, yeah, thank you. I think it's GOE. But so Hitler was the one who was willing, Hitler and Mussolini. So Hitler and Mussolini each on their own were bad, but I don't know if they used each other in this way. Right? But Hitler and Goebbels was the propaganda guy. So Goebbels was not out there, to my knowledge, like actually calling the orders to perpetuate the atrocities, but he was making it possible through his propaganda machine. And Hitler needs that, although Hitler was also pretty good at it himself. But yeah, are there any examples in Tanakh? You could say, if you knew more Tanakh than I do, that I feel like there are some examples of false prophets who aided evil kings. You know, so that would be like someone who is doing the evil, and then someone who's their mouthpiece, who's perpetuating it. Yeah, Avital?
Maybe a little bit like Haman and Achashverosh.
So I was wondering about that also, but was one of them
Like it seems like really like Haman was the one that really like did everything.
Yeah.
And then Ahasuerus, using his influence as king, kind of like allowed whatever like it was to be like carried out. Like he didn't actually, I don't know, like maybe it could also like it's always.
Oh no. Here's what it is. Maybe with that pairing here is it, I mean it depends on how you learn the story, but Haman lied about this nation that's there, that they're not obeying the king's orders, and like they're gonna like there's gonna be an uprising, whatever, and then Achashverosh was looking for some like excuse to actually, like, according to Chazal, that he was bad, that he was looking for some excuse to get the Jews or whatever, and so each one had what the other one needed. I think that would be the example.
Right. Well, yeah, I was gonna say like it kind of goes both ways, which is why I was a little having trouble categorizing them. But I think also like it's a little hard to tell exactly, just because like going through the Megillah, you know that like we know that Ahasuerus was around. So like stuff like that, I feel like makes it a little more difficult also.
Yeah. But according to the way Chazal learn, I think it does work out that they were both evil, but Haman supplied the pretext, and Achashverosh supplied the authority to like actually get it done. Okay. Ayala?
What would you say is the practical application?
Right. What's the practical application? Don't let the chakran pair up with the meirah. And I feel like maybe I'm just saying this because I was in Nija today, and I'm not usually around a ton of little kids, and it is interesting. Like, I know little kids don't always like, there's such a thing where little kids like mature, but like I'm sure there are people who are like liars that you could tell from when they were a little kid that like they were already starting then. And I'm sure that there are people who are evildoers who you could tell like from a little kid that they were like that. And so I would say like don't let them team up, together. But what would be another good practical application? Because that's not really so practical for everyday use. I mean, when you're guarding yourself against Rishayim, I do think that you have. Okay, I'm going to give another example here. And I don't understand this. And I don't want to get into a whole discussion about this. If you have a theory, you can let me know later. We all know that Hamas and all of the bad guys are very good at propaganda, right? But like Israel is notoriously bad at its own PR, like, and like the fact that I think it was Haviv Ratik Gur that I heard on a podcast saying that like there is literally no division in the Israeli government that is actually responsible for like, I forgot what the exact thing was, but it was something like for actually putting out statements to the press. Like if let's say something happens and the press in America like wants official statements from like we have like a White House spokesperson, and like we have a whole like organized like PR team for the president or whatever. There's nothing for the IDF that like are official channels. And he was giving a bunch of examples where like earlier between October 7th and and Israel's response, then like there were people who were actually trying to get like answers for what is the IDF trying to do, and like not even any explanations. And yeah, there's like Facebook pages and social media and stuff like that, but clearly our enemies are winning the propaganda war, So like that's another good example, is that there's the liars and the propaganda people in Hamas, and then there's the actual terrorists who are doing the actions on the ground, and they team up, and you need to actually like go to war with both of them and defeat them. Or like, here's another example of this, right? Is that, again, I know I'm going too much into this example, but like one of the big problems is that Qatar funds American universities and Al Jazeera, and that's where you get a lot of anti-Israel, foundations and mouthpieces. So like, you can't expect to win the war against the actual terrorists if you don't also do, sever their ability to like mutually benefit each other with the propagandists. I don't know if this is like a good everyday practical application, but it is a practical application. Guarding against evildoers. Okay, let's do one more and then we'll call it a night. Okay. This is Rabbeinu Yona, and I did not translate this. This is ChatGPT, so I'm going to go ahead and translate it in the Hebrew. Ish me'ra, an evil man, v'hu shem davar. It's a noun. Kamo ushneim hamalachim levavam leme'ra. That's just an example of aderech va'ani tefilah. Ish tefilah. Okay, so he's basically saying me'ra means an evil man. Okay, just like the word tefilah is ish tefilah. O yihi me'ra shem hator, or it's an adjective. Kamo chanef ume'ra. Okay, like a hypocrite and evildoer. Okay, I don't know exactly what the difference is between the two. An evil man or an evildoer. I don't know. Sheker amazing, ish sheker amazing al lashon havos. Okay, so he's saying sheker is ish sheker. Now, what's his explanation? Ubir inyan. The explanation of the matter is like this: Kishtei akitos lashon hara. There are two groups of lashon hara, or I don't know if you need groups of lashon hara speakers. Achas kas hazedim. One is the group of the aggressive or malicious people. Inyan meira bal zadon halev. Meira means someone who is like aggressive or sadistic or malicious. Vashenis kas shakarim. The second group of lashon hara speakers are liars. V'tama davar. The meaning of the matter is ki bal zadon halev. The malicious, aggressive, sadistic person, me'asher yakput shiimsu hamumin v'hashamos b'nei adam, because he wants to find blemishes and guilt or liabilities in people. Yakshi v'yazin alem, he'll listen about them. Kasher yisapru osam al chavero, when their fellows talk about them. V'yamin l'dvarim, and he'll believe things. The statements. Kichin derech hachafetz b'davar yata levav l'hamin bo. Someone who desires something will incline his heart to believe it. And even more so, not only will he turn his heart, but he'll turn his ear. I'm just going to make a paragraph here. The shakran will listen to. Sorry, someone who's a shakran, a liar, al davar. Asher lo hurgal lidrosh emes, who's not accustomed to seeking truth. Yasim hadvarim sheyishmu belibo v'yakablim mibli mechkar. He'll take the things that he hears and he'll accept them in his heart without research investigating them. Ki lo yachush lechavin hadvarim el haemes. He will not bother to try to like line things up with the truth. Asher yasim belibo, that he puts in his heart. V'kasher yisaper v'yagid, and that he talks about. All right, so let me just summarize this so far. Okay, so he's saying like this. He's saying. Hold on. Summary. Okay, so he's saying like this. There are two lashon hara group. I'm gonna call them groupies. We'll see if that works out. Okay. Aggressive, malicious people, and two liars. Okay, so he says the aggressive people are always inclining their hearts and ears to listen to any blemish or fault in other people, and they will believe these things without investigating them. Yeah. Okay, good. The liars who aren't accustomed to verifying what they hear will also listen attentively and not double check. I know that just sounds like a tautology. Okay, but because he's talking about lashon hara. V'amida haguna b'inyan zeh, the good midah. Oh, I'm not translating. The good midah in this, sheyisna ha'adam lahakshiv lahazin al lashon hara, is that a person should hate listening to lashon hara. V'im yishma'enu, and if he hears it, lo yamin bo, lo yisaprenu, he shouldn't believe it and he shouldn't tell it. Lo yimna'anu ba'ahavas chavero u'vichvodo, and he should not refrain. Yimna'enu ba'avas chavero u'vichvodo. Misafek ad yishris baras emes, and due to his love of his fellow, he should not I don't know. He should not withhold it from something until he clarifies the truth. Let me just read this here. Nor should he let his love or honor for his fellow restrain him from being cautious out of mere doubt until it becomes truly clear to him. Okay, hold on. Last thing, this is an important thing, which I think a lot of people don't know. V'chein amru zal, Chazal say, Lashon hara af al pi she'ein roy lekablo, ach yesh lachush alav. Lashon hara, even though you're not, it's not permitted to accept it, you should be cautious about it. So let's say, for example, you hear that someone has, is a kleptomaniac, right? But you haven't verified it. So don't believe it, but you are permitted to not leave your belongings in their vicinity. You're permitted to be cautious. Okay. So the good midah is to hate listening to lashon hara. And if you hear it, don't believe it or tell it. But don't let your love for your fellow prevent you from taking precautions. Yeah. Okay, fine. So what's the main idea here? So this is an interesting thing. So he's learning that the audience is someone is us, right? We are people who are not addicted to lashon hara, but the pasuk is about people who are addicted to lashon hara. And he's saying that there's two types of lashon hara addicts. There's the people who are essentially watching other people being brought down. And then there are the people who are just liars who don't have any regard for the truth. And they'll accept lashon hara and they'll speak it without really bothering to check anything. So what's the practical idea? How does that connect to the practical idea of, because it's funny, because according to him, the pasuk is not telling you, the pasuk is not saying the good decision. It's only talking about the bad guys. So what's the main idea? I'm going to start us off. Yeah, go ahead, Avital or Yutzi.
Yeah, I was just thinking that there can be multiple motivations for people dealing with falsehood and lashon hara and engaging with it.
Yeah.
And I guess in terms of practical application, it's just important to be aware of the different streams and where they're coming from.
Right.
So when a person is trying to avoid it, they can recognize in themselves which one it is and then be able to combat it appropriately.
Okay, good. I was thinking similar. Okay, so in other words, is that there are two primary reasons why a person would fall prey to accepting to listening to lashon hara. Okay, one is they're primed to want to see other people brought down, and two, they don't have sufficient regard for truth. Okay, so if someone speaks lashon hara, okay, near you, and you sense in yourself, that guy, I knew that guy, wasn't as good as people say. Okay, you should realize that this is the emotion that prompts the meira to speak lashon hara, and you should avoid giving in to that desire. Likewise, if you hear someone speak lashon hara and you find yourself immediately accepting it, you should say here, you should recognize this is exactly what the ish sheker does. Okay, which makes him prone to lashon hara, and you should avoid that. So in other words, this is kind of like in Atomic Habits, James Clear's opening chapter talks about how the real key to changing habits is not to change your actions, but to change the way you view yourself and the kind of person who you are. So everyone in any place is like, oh, don't listen to lashon hara, right? But if you use this technique, this is a technique for not listening to it, which is that the guy who speaks lashon hara is a guy who wants to see other people brought down. If someone speaks lashon hara and you feel a surge of that, then you are like that guy, and you're prone to becoming like that guy and speaking to lashon hara, listening to it. And so too, the guy who's just not verifying stuff, if you just immediately let this claim into your ear and then you catch yourself being like, wait a minute, why am I just accepting that and taking this guy's word for it? Like that kind of person is the kind of person who speaks Lashon Hara, so you should guard against that. Yeah, Yitzi?
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly say this is like a novel idea of what a person of falsehood is, because usually we see it as someone who's purposely distorting the truth and trying to lie for their benefit.
Right.
We usually think of it as someone who's like more classically naive or isn't thinking as critically about what they're hearing. But what Yona is telling us is no, there's like a real falsehood that needs to be avoided that can come just from a person not thinking critically and accepting whatever it is they hear bad about others.
Yeah, that's really good. And I would go further. I know he's not saying this, but I do think that Rambam says that there are intellectual virtues and vices, and then midos virtues and vices. And I really think that the zadon, this aggressiveness, is a defect in midos, but this disregard for MS is a defect in intellect. Like I think it's an intellectual defect to just not care about verifying stuff, So I do think it's and I'm sure you can make even subdivisions within these, but I think it's stemming from two parts of the person. Okay, so let's do a quick review and then we'll stop. So we had Ariel's idea, which is the fact that this is a warning about speaking types of content that can attract evildoers and liars to take advantage of you. So beware that if you're speaking about your troubles or you're speaking about destruction that you suffered, or desires is how we ended up, your desires, and someone zooms in and is like giving you all your attention, don't automatically assume that this person has good intent. Make sure that they are not a meira or a sheker, and guard yourself accordingly. Isaiah has this idea that that a person might not do evil because of their nature or their character, but it starts off with an innocent or good intentioned listening to Lashon Aven or Sfas Aven, and then that gets them into a mode where they're not thinking critically, and then that causes them to do evil. And likewise, if someone is talking about destruction that they suffered, that can cause a person to rush in and not verify stuff and cause them to promote sheker. Another example of this, by the way, is charities. You always have to check out whether the charities are legit and reputable charities. Back in my rebellious days, I don't know what it is now, but like pink ribbon, like cancer, breast cancer awareness stuff. So Shalheva, they always used to have these like pink ribbon days where everyone wears pink, and I would try to promote I would wear salmon because the person who invented it was this woman who did the salmon ribbon, and like the pink ribbon people stole her thing. And then I don't know how it is now, but for whatever 10 years ago, the pink ribbon people, if you look at what they actually use the money for when they're raising money, a lot of it is just to pump back into more of their own, like their own publicity, like their own marketing, not actually using for cancer research, and a lot of celebrities have also been caught doing stuff like this. So like that's another thing where it's easy to get drawn in, and you end up promoting lies out of good intentions, good listening intentions. Okay, again, I'm not trying to speak Lashon Hara about the pink stuff now, but do your research. Don't be a sheker. Okay, Yitzi's idea was that the reason why the meira, the reason why a person, the thing that makes the meira ra is not just the acts of evil, but the value system that is just attuned to looking for opportunities to do evil. And so it's highlighting the thing that makes him a meira. And so too, the person who is a Baal Taiva, who lives a life of Taiva, who's caught in the world of falsehood of Taiva, they're also just listening for opportunities to partake of Taiva. And that's why it doesn't say they're listening to, it's they're listening about, or for, or upon. Okay. Then we had Rifki, I forgot to go back to what Rifki was saying. Rifki's idea about like surrounding yourself with a bubble of people who are like reinforcing your way of thinking. That that's its own idea, but that fits in well with my idea, which I'll say now. My idea was that the evildoer is not just doing evil to obtain a benefit, but there's a fantasy he's indulging in of the lawless man, and that's why he is attracted to listening to other people talking about it. So to the liar is not just lying for gain. There is a fantasy of destroying reality with your words, and that's why he likes listening to people who have caused such destruction. And to pair it with Rivki's idea is, these people are surrounding themselves with things that reinforce that fantasy. And then we had Metzudas David's idea, which is the dynamic duo of evil, is you will have a liar with an evildoer, and they need each other and they benefit from each other. So the practical thing is to separate them if you can, and defeat both of them at their own game, but break their partnership, and take away Al Jazeera's funding, and you're also harming the terrorists, and then Rabbeinu Yona's idea is the two things that make people attracted to Lashon Hara is the intellectual defect of not having a regard for the truth and just accepting things uncritically, and then the emotional defect, the midos defect of wanting to see people brought down. And if you sense that in yourself, then you're on the road to becoming a Lashon Hara speaker, certainly Lashon Hara acceptor. Okay. Nice to be back to Mishlei, and looking forward to next week. Next week's pasuk is a fun one. Okay, so we'll hopefully see you next week.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rabbi.
Good to be back.